Hey, Yinz guys and gals, gather round for a journey like no other. It's time to hop on board the Where Yinz Goin podcast. From the rivers that meet at the point to form downtown Pittsburgh, to the Great Salt Lake, to the furthest corners of the globe, Matt and Katie will be your compass, your confidants, your companions of that, as we explore the wonders of travel. So kick back, relax on your couch, and let the wanderlust wash over Yinz as we discover new horizons and reminisce about old favorites. With Matt and Katie by our side, the sky's the limit. Join Matt and Katie on the Where Yinz Goin podcast, because when it comes to travel, the journey's just getting started. And now, without further ado, let's give a shout for your guides through the highways and byways of travel, the planning partners, the travel tandem, Matt and Katie.
How Yinz doing? Welcome to the Where Yinz Goin podcast. I'm Matt. I'm one of your hosts. Now, I guess we should say hola. It would be a more appropriate greeting for today's episode because we're heading to Puerto Rico.
Yay!
And yes, this episode is going to be a bit unique because we're going to split into two parts. And joining me for the fifth time is Annell, who was born in Puerto Rico. And she'll be talking to us first about her hometown of Ponce.
Yes. My family is from Ponce. My mom is actually from Ponce. My dad is from Salinas, which is not that far, maybe about 45 minutes away from my mother. Dad was military, so we were raised in the Army life. So been stationed all over, and now I live in Georgia.
And thank you for the gentle correction on my pronunciation here.
Oh, no, you're
for,
fine.
for Ponce and Puerto Rico. I can't roll the R's or anything. So my high school Spanish, that was, 20 some years ago. So I do what I can. Just to give some background on Puerto Rico, it's officially Estado Libre Asociado de Puerto Rico, the Free Associated State of Puerto Rico, and Puerto Rico, rich port. English name is the Commonwealth of Puerto Rico. So Puerto Rico by any other name would be as awesome. I don't know if we're channeling our inner Shakespeare. But just some history that it was initially settled by the Amerindian people around 2,000, 4,000 years ago. The Ortoroid people were there before 430 BC. That's like something they know for sure. Claimed by Christopher Columbus for Spain in 1493. And when you go there, or if you do any history of Christopher Columbus, he's Cristobal Colon in Spanish, Cristofa Colombo in Genoese, which is his native language. He's Cristofo Colombo in Italian, and then Columbus claimed the island of San Juan Bautista, John the Baptist, and the capital city was called Ciudad de Puerto Rico. And so the names were switched later, that now the island itself is Puerto Rico, but the capital is San Juan.
Correct.
So it was colonized by Juan Ponce de Leon in 1508. After that, the indigenous population declined, mostly due to disease brought by the European settlers and explorers, sometimes intentionally, but we're not going to discuss different topic for a different podcast about all that. The Spanish settlers and African slaves moved in later on, and then it was acquired by the United States after the Spanish-American War of 1898. So politically, it's kind of interesting, and we're not going to discuss any controversy here, just general background of it. That is a self-governing Caribbean archipelago and island. It is an unincorporated territory of the United States. So, yeah, complicated issue, right? That the president of the United States is the head of state of Puerto Rico. But Puerto Rico has a governor and its three branches of government that are like the U.S., with the legislative, the executive, and the judicial.
Right.
Puerto Ricans became U.S. citizens in 1917, but Puerto Ricans do not vote in U.S. elections. Puerto Rico is the subject of all federal laws of the United States, and there's a whole lot of debate about whether Puerto Rico should remain a territory, become a state, become independent. But like I said, that's for someone else to discuss. We're talking about going
Right.
there and just having an awesome time and seeing a beautiful island.
Right.
The one really nice thing about going to Puerto Rico is that you do not need a passport to go there, since it is, a territory of the United States. You
Right.
only need a government issue ID, like a with a photo ID, like a driver's license. But I do recommend a passport. And when we went there last year, they just didn't even ask. They said, "Where's your passport?" And we had that, so we gave it to them. So I always recommend traveling with a passport anyway.
Right. Right.
And if nothing else, it's a backup form of identification
Mm.
because I have lost my driver's license once while traveling.
And just also Puerto Ricans in the United States can vote. It's the Puerto Ricans in Puerto Rico, if you're on the island, that don't vote in the US elections.
So thank you for that clarification. They have two official languages of Spanish and English. So you're going to see both down there and hear both. Mostly we heard Spanish, and there were some like small restaurants that we went to that our waiter had very limited English. Luckily, it was at that restaurant that we were meeting someone from Puerto Rico who spoke English, so he could do translations for us. Um, for the most part, we had no issues getting around, even with my limited Spanish from 25 years ago in high school.
Yes. Yeah, they definitely speak English in schools. They teach English in school, so it's pretty easy to navigate.
Just the I would say first language for many of the citizens there is Spanish. So just walk around, you're gonna hear people speaking Spanish to each other and whatever else. But if you then start talking English, they're gonna say, "Oh, okay," and they'll adjust.
They'll switch. Yes.
Now, an area, how big it is, the with the area, it is 5,323 square miles. So Connecticut is 5,543 square miles, so it's slightly larger. So Puerto Rico is bigger than both than Delaware and Rhode Island. It's about 111 miles lengthwise, going east to west, about 39 miles north to south. About 3,200,000 people is the population, and if it Puerto Rico was a state, it would be just ahead of Iowa, which is at number 32. So lower end of the states, and but for being something that would be like the third smallest state, it has a fairly
Density.
high density
Hmm.
weather. So it's 18.5 degrees north latitude. So that translates to hot.
Yes.
It's about 1,000 miles southeast of Miami, so about 2.5 hours flight from Miami if you're leaving from there. We flew to Detroit and then straight to San Juan, so it was like a 4-hour flight. Although with the traveling we're into this summer, that's nothing. We got to go into
Right. You have
Indonesia.
a
We have
long one.
two like 10-ish hour legs of our trip there. Then there's
Yes.
two other smaller flights and a bunch of layovers. So yeah, getting the Puerto Rico is not bad, especially if you can get to Miami and then take the flight out of there. That Miami's a big hub. Getting flights into there is not too much of an issue.
Yes. Orlando's another one.
Yeah, and now in the lowlands, the average low, so like around the coast type area, average low is around 70-ish degrees. Average high can get to 90 to 95. And if you're in the mountains, it can be cooler with lows between like 45 and 60 and highs between 65 and 70. So there are some places you can go that are not
Right.
too
Bit
bad. You're not
cooler.
going to be, sweating the whole time.
Yes. When my grandmother lived, we definitely in the morning, sometimes you need a little jacket, and it was definitely more comfortable out in the country than when you start going into more into the city.
And that's usually a general rule pretty much anywhere. I mean, even going through the southern part of the United States, that cities like to trap heat.
Hmm.
So talking about it, and you said it's Ponce.
Ponce.
Ponce. It's the Pearl of the South or the Museum City are some of its nicknames. The how do you pronounce the name for the airport?
Mercedita. Mercedita.
Mercedita International Airport. The code is AIM. Ponce is the second largest city on Puerto Rico, and it's along the south coast. Later on, we're going to talk about San Juan. That's more of the north coast. So we're going to give you a little taste of different areas of the island. So some of the big things there, and I was here to add all the flavor to it. I'm just here to set her up because she's the star of the show today. Unlike the,
Oh, the pressure.
it's like
So,
in a great comedy duo. You have the person who's the comedian, and then there's a straight man who just sets up all the jokes. So I'm playing straight man here for you to, I'll tee him up for you though. Softballs. And I was also here to correct my pronunciation. So first up, the Plaza Las Delicias, so the Square of Delights.
pretty
It's
good.
mainly the town square.
Yes. You have a lot of the town's festivals and stuff happen there. In fact, when Icon of the Sea was just there a few days ago, and they came in. They were at the Plaza de Delicias, and the government in Ponce set it up where they had a bunch of buses that would take them to different towns on the south side of the island, so that the tourists were able to see something different than just always seeing San Juan, because normally that's the port that you'll come into in the cruise. So it was very nice to look at, and pride gave a lot of pride what the government did to kind of just let people know other parts of the island.
And the Icon of the Seas, Royal Caribbean, one of their newer ships, and it's giant and fabulous. So if you
Over
want to go on a nice
10,000.
cruise,
Yes,
yeah. And
it
I
did.
when we were
Yeah.
in San Juan, I forget there was a cruise ship in port there. I
Hmm.
can't remember which one it was, but the real nice thing of having the buses that take the cruisers to the different parts of the island is usually whenever a cruise ship comes into port that city is just overwhelmed with several thousand extra people, and sometimes there are multiple cruise ships, so it just goes crazy. But having buses go different areas, that spreads out the crowd a bit, so they got a little bit better of the experience of not just this mad rush of the people they're seeing all the time on all their
Right. And
or
they were
their shore
greeted
excursions.
they were greeted with like traditional music. They had different stages where different people were dancing singing different genres of music, and you got to see folklore dressing and some of the stuff that you'll normally see if you're in town during some of the festival, like Gigantes, which are like these masks that people put on that has like almost kind of like horns coming out that you normally see what you would see, I guess, like if someone would think carnival. So they
Mhm.
had a lot of that going on in the street too.
That's really one of the reasons why you want to travel to different parts of the world, whether it's parts that are in your country, whether it's internationally, whether just a place that has somewhat of a different culture. And that's why we're highlighting Puerto Rico here, is that it's in the United States, it's part of the United States, but you're getting a different cultural experience than, well, depending on where you're from, but usually different cultural experience from where you live now.
Right.
It's like one of those things of you're kind of stepping out of your comfort zone, but keeping like one foot still kind of in it. So it,
Yes.
rem- it reminds me of the movie Pretty Woman. So the Richard Gere, Julia Roberts from, what was that, back in the 80s that was made?
Mm-hmm.
That so spoiler, no real spoilers for this film who hasn't seen it since then, but Richard Gere, he's the big, multi-millionaire or whatever, that he never goes out on the balcony. He always gets the penthouse in the wherever he's going to the hotel, but he never goes out on the balcony. And then towards the end, he's sitting on a chair that's out on the balcony, and Julia was like, "You've changed. You're on the balcony." And he looks down, and like one leg of the chair is still inside the room. He's like, "Technically, no, I'm not." So that's Puerto Rico. You can still like kind of get out on the balcony, but still not.
Right.
Now, one of the more iconic things you're going to see in the Plaza Delicias is the Cathedral of Our Lady of Guadalupe, or as they'll have it, it's the Cathedral de Nuestra Señora de Guadalupe. Did I get that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And I still can remember what some of those words are from Spanish in high school too. So I'm proud of
Yeah.
myself. Senor
Good
Militello,
job.
you can be proud of me. I
Good.
retained it. So good job teaching. So this is the chapel was built of this cathedral was built in 1670. It was torn down in 1835, and a new church was completed in 1839. It was declared a cathedral in 1924 by Pope Pius the 11th. It was then reconstructed from 1931 to 1937. So that's one of the interesting things about Puerto Rico is that it has some great history to it, of being first claimed in 1493 by Columbus, and then it's over 500 years ago. And so there's still, and we'll talk about this when we talk about San Juan too, of there's some structures there that are hundreds of years old,
Right.
and you can feel the age of it. It's a great history lesson, and it's I'm a history fan, so it's entertaining for me to be there.
Right. Right.
Now the cathedral is open Monday through Friday from 6 in the morning to about 12:30, and then on Saturday and Sundays from 6 to 12, and then 3 to 8. So if you want to go and take a look, December 12th is the feast of Our Lady of Guadalupe, and I remember when we were in high school with our Spanish class, we would celebrate that each year.
Oh, that's really neat.
I think my teachers wanted a chance to have a party in class and not teach us, but we didn't complain. And so some things, if you're down there in December, the people will sing, was that Las Mananitas?
Las Mañanitas. Yes.
I cannot get the little tilde on the ends whenever I was typing this up. So, and it's translates to early mornings in English. It's the Mexican birthday song, and they have a pre-dawn religious procession through town. People will attend mass at 5 o'clock in the morning, and they can get like 10,000 people there. This tradition started in 1965.
Oh, wow.
So and then December 24th, Misa de Gallo, the Roosters Mass, which is its midnight mass, is a big thing. And for Christmas, midnight mass is a big celebration. We've never went to it. I remember my mom talking about it whenever she was younger that they would go to that and then come home and they'd cook up bacon and eggs and have a like a breakfast meal like late at night before going to bed and then getting up and celebrating Christmas.
Wow.
But now my mom could do it probably still. She's a night owl, but with four kids, it was like, no, you're going to bed. I'm not dealing with you.
Got to be up with the roosters to attend that mass.
Hmm. Some other things in the plaza is the Fuente de los Leones, so the Fountain of Lions, and Ponce de Leon. So yeah, you see where the connection's going with this. There's the Parque de Bombas, which is the Park of Pumps. And it's not the literal translation, but
Yeah,
it
that's
is. Say it again.
yeah, that's a literal trans, but Parque de Bomba is really a historical firehouse.
Yeah, it's Puerto Rico's first fire station was there, built in 1882 as a pavilion for an exhibition. Later became the fire station. And of course, like any good plaza, there are restaurants, coffee shops, places where you can uh, have a good meal, hang out. It's a gathering place. It's where you're going to be social.
Right,
And
right.
the architecture of the area is what's called Ponce Ponce Creole. So I can talk to my sister about that. She's an architect. So some other things that you can do around the area. There's the Buena Vista Coffee Plantation. They have tours and coffee tasting. So if you're a coffee aficionado, that's where you got to
Definitely
head.
something to try. That's something I have not done actually.
My wife is a coffee person. Now she likes all of her flavored specialty things. Sometimes she'll make it at
Mhm.
home though. And then of course my little girl is she's a social eater that she wants what everybody else has. And she could be extremely hungry, but if no one else is eating, she's like, "Yeah, I'm not. No thanks." Or she just ate a big meal, and now she's learning now, whenever she gets full. But typically, she just ate, and then someone else says, "Can I have some of that?" It's like, okay, are you really hungry, or you just want food? So, but she'll try to eat my wife's coffee, and of course, yes, my overly energetic 5 year old with an extra boost of caffeine. It's like when I tell my wife, it's like, okay, if you give her that coffee, she's your kid. Okay.
But see, a lot of people in other cultures, coffee for young children is very, very common. Drinking a little bit of coffee with some milk in Puerto Rico for young children, very common.
I'll introduce them to my little girl on coffee, and that it's like the purple minions type thing. Now the whole thing, it reminds me of in The Lion King, whenever Simba's young and he comes to wake up his dad, and Mufasa turns away. He's like, "Before sunrise, he's your kid. After coffee, she's yours. Go." And of course, there are some museums there too. The Museo de Arte de Ponce, and it's abbreviated MAP, Museum of Art of Ponce or Ponce, MAP. And it has a lot of European and Puerto Rican art.
Yes, very nice work in there.
Yeah, I think that's great that it's no, there's European art too, and there's of course a connection between Europe and Puerto Rico with the colonization and everything. But having
Right,
the local artists too, of highlighting the one of the works of just local people. I'm a big supporter of, or a big advocate of supporting the local businesses, the local artists, whatever it is, to as opposed to going over like big chain things, whatever. So anything you can do to highlight what's happening in that area, because that's what makes your city special.
right, right,
The
right. And then highlighting some of the indigenous people, which were Taino Indians. So you can find some great stuff there too about that.
and that's the real reason why you're going to go to these places anyway, is that you want to have that cultural experience.
Right.
If you just want to go to a beach where it's hot, you can. There's a laundry list of different places you can go that are in Florida or
Mhm.
in California, whatever. But it's being able to go and experience that extra little bit that
Right.
makes going to Puerto Rico that much more special. Another thing is this the Sorales Castle Museum?
Serralles.
Serralles, Serralles.
Yes, it's pronounced
So,
Serralles. And they are the owners of Bacardi. Yeah. Fun fact is that my grandfather actually worked for them. He was their like their veterinarian and tended to all their horses.
oh, that's awesome.
So when my grandfather retired, they actually gave him his house.
Beats the gold watch.
They actually gave him his house. They actually kind of took the house apart, and my grandfather bought land in the countryside, and they manufactured it and put it back together.
Oh, that's really neat.
Yes.
Does your family still own the house? Is it still?
Yes. My family still owns the house. Currently, no one's living in it, but the house and the land around it, yes, still own it.
That's great. That type of that like family history, and being able to see where your grandparents lived and where your parents grew up and stuff like that. That I know that my dad in Pittsburgh grew up like down the street from where the Heinz plant is.
Oh, okay.
And so but then they this was several years ago that the place where my grandma lived, the area started to get very run down, and it got to be more of a lower income thing, and they eventually ended up, tearing down all the buildings. But it's still a thing of, we were just down there the other day of, hey, driving with my little girl, hey,
Hmm.
right there is where Pap grew up, and she's like, really,
Yeah,
and looking out, and um,
it's
still
cool.
whenever, yeah, we lived on the north side of Pittsburgh growing up, and still whenever I'm in that area, that I'll drive by our old house, and
Hmm.
just it brings back those memories.
It
It
does.
was a really big house. It's set up on like a little bit of a hill, but
Hmm.
we lived on the second and third floors. My grandma and grandpap, my mom's parents, lived below us, and then even my mom's maternal grandmother had a room in the basement whenever we were younger before she passed away. So I mean, there were
Oh, wow.
four
Multi-generational.
generations in one
Yes.
under one roof, which that was great times. I mean,
Right.
and I think my mom liked it too because we had a built-in babysitter just downstairs. Hey, grandma,
Right.
you want to watch the kids for a minute? But the Castle Museum, it's a mansion that overlooks downtown. And as Annell said, it belonged to the owners of the Don Q Rum Distillery, which is Bacardi. Uh, the museum is about sugarcane and rum industries in Puerto Rico. And I'm sorry, but the actual distillery is not open to the public.
Hmm.
But you can visit Casa. I might have a typo in there. Is it Casa Bacardi in, was it Catano?
Cataño, yes.
That's across the bay from Old San Juan. Was it? And then with the Hacienda Santa Ana in Bayamon,
Bayamón.
and the Distilleria Craft Spirits in, was it Jayu Jayuya?
Jayuya.
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 Hmm.
There's actually a thing with speaking other languages of just the sounds you have to make, and then the way you have to shape your mouth and like the muscles for it, that when you grow up learning a specific language, you get your muscles get used to making those sounds and those shapes. Whenever you speak a different language, you have to adjust. Like
Right.
learning to say some things in Indonesian. I've gotten better at it over the years, and I think I'm gonna have like an Achenese accent whenever I speak it too, because I'm learning from my wife who's from the Aceh province on northern Sumatra. But like in NG there is like an like
Right. Hmm.
like whenever you're a kid, like nya, 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 it's that nya sound, or an NY is kind of like similar, like nya type thing.
Hmm.
That or if you're saying a K at the end of a word, you kind of start to say the word, then the letter, and then you swallow it. Like ANAK is the word for a kid or a child. So
Hmm.
it's not a knack, it's a knock. And then you start and stuff. So there's little nuances of languages that
Right. Right.
I think it's fascinating. I'm like good
That's
at it, but I think it's fascinating.
right. Take when I was about elementary school age, I was such a confused kid speaking because at home my parents just spoke Spanish to me. Even though, you know, military brat, my dad, my parents spoke English, but they would speak Spanish to me so I wouldn't lose it. So when I went to school, a lot of my foundation, my other stuff that I learned, English wise, came from school. But then, second semester of first grade, we got stationed in Germany and they teach you German. You have to take German classes too. So there was time when I was in elementary school at that age where I would speak to you, and people heard like Spanglish, where you're speaking Spanish and English at the same time. Well, I was
Hmm.
speaking three languages at the same time. It's like I would have conversations, and sometimes some words pop faster to me in another language than in what I was actually speaking. So I was just so confused. I was just so confused, but it was helpful because my parents would take me to the German markets because I could speak with the farmers and others about the vegetables and the fruits that we were picking up. But then I kind of lost my German.
I
Didn't
love your
practice it
parents.
enough.
That is an awesome way to help a kid to assimilate into a new culture, two, to practice their language skills, And three, it helps to make them more interpersonal, and it builds life lessons of, okay, here's how you interact at a market. Here's how you ask about the vegetables. Here's how you do this. And so that's like five lessons rolled into one right there. So the teacher in me is saying, good job to Annell's parents.
I'm sure
Although,
they appreciate it, especially since my mom was a teacher herself.
yeah, so right there, she knows it wasn't by accident. It's actually funny the Spanglish thing that with my wife and some of her friends who live in the United States who are from Indonesia, that whenever they're speaking Indonesian, that they'll go back and forth and they'll have a few things they'll say in English and a few in Indonesian just because it's easier in one way or the other.
Right. Or sometimes like when you get worked up or like excited, or sometimes, I do that to my spouse. I come in and I start talking and they're just looking at me. I'm like, did you not hear what I said? They're like, you are speaking in Spanish. Like, I picked up some, but I didn't get everything. Now sometimes that might happen. I don't realize that I'm speaking in Spanish until the person is looking at me like with a dumb look, like I have no idea what you just said to me. So, and sometimes I don't catch it at all.
And you're not alone in that. That there was a lady who used to teach at WVU in the math department that she was from Poland
Okay.
and she had lived in the United States for, oh, 30, 40 years, whatever. Um, but there was one time that something happened. She was very worked up over it, and she was trying to explain it to me, and then she just broke into fluent Polish and is going on and on. And I was on the phone. I was like, wait, wait, wait. Her name was Ludmilla. I was like, Ludmilla, Ludmilla, hey, you're talking in Polish. I can't under slow down, slow down. My grandparents were, my dad's parents were both Polish, and I think they both were born in Poland. Um,
Oh, wow.
but we never, yeah. So here's the great history of so the last name is Schrader, which is definitely not Polish, but it was actually spelled like the Polish spelling of what would sound like Schrader, like Sczrejdr or something along those lines.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought Schrader was bad to spell, but
Mm-hmm.
seeing uh, my dad's dad, my grandfather's, uh, his birth certificate, whenever he was born, and it has that on it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that whenever we grew up, they always said they were German, but they spoke fluent Polish. So I never understood that. But I think
Gotcha.
I finally figured out where this all came from. Is that at the time when they immigrated to the United States,
Mm-hmm.
the United States put restrictions on who could come in. That they did not want Catholics; they wanted Protestants. So
Gotcha.
Poland, very Catholic country, Irish, very
Mm-hmm.
Catholic country. Though
Right.
there were a lot of restrictions, and back in the 1800s, 1900s, that there were the signs of no Irish need, or work help wanted, Irish need not apply, or something
Right.
like that.
Right.
But with Protestant country of Germany, they had no problems, or Protestant country of England, no problems. So either my grandparents went just through Germany to
Mm-hmm.
immigrate to the United States, or they lived in Germany briefly and then came to the US. Either way, there was a passage through Germany, I think. And so
Right.
whenever we were here, that just kind of stuck with them of, we're German, don't tell anybody type thing.
Right. Right.
And then
Right.
the name got, oh, something that sounds like Schrader. Where are you coming from? Germany. Got it.
Mm-hmm.
And then spelling got changed, or they did it on purpose.
Right. You had to do what
So
you had to do.
yeah. But yeah, anyway, getting back to the other stuff. Um, what else would you like to let people know about your hometown, or just Puerto Rican culture, or visiting the
Food.
island? Food.
Food. Definitely, definitely, definitely try out the food. Of course, you always have like, don't want to say bougie, but the more upscale restaurants and stuff that are good. A lot of them are like tourist magnet, but a lot of places when you travel in Puerto Rico, especially, on the roads, La Carretera Vieja, the old streets, the old roads, you'll find like kiosks and people cook on the side of the road. And I promise you that some of the best food, authentic Puerto Rican food you're going to have is in a kiosk versus restaurants. So I would definitely, rent a car, drive around the island, It's only going to take you a couple hours to get around the whole island. So drive around the island, stop at the little kiosks and stuff and just try some of our food.
It's funny you mentioned that even and that's true of anywhere you travel, of some of the smaller restaurants, the mom and pops, whatever. And in most other countries, they are all mom and pops. They don't have like the chain restaurants very much. That and even the little kiosks that in Indonesia that we'll be driving around, and that's actually where my wife will say, "Let's stop here,"
Right,
and she's like, "This is where you're going to get the good food."
right, right. We
It's
have a
actually
routine when we travel with my dad to go back to Puerto Rico. We already know anybody that picks us up in Puerto Rico already knows the first stop is and where we're gonna go eat because my dad has to have his lechon, which is pig that
okay.
they put out on a rotisserie. So there's certain spots that you hit up off the road where we eat that, and you kind of goes. My dad goes eating all the way back down to the south side of the island. It takes us a minute to get there because we stop a lot.
It's like people say with Epcot in Disney. It's like you're going to eat your way around the world. Your
Yes,
dad likes to eat his way across the island of Puerto Rico.
right, right.
That's actually a great tradition and a great welcome home. If I'm gonna go home and I'm okay, I'm gonna stop and eat thing, and I'm gonna get a culinary delight and make my belly happy, especially after
Right.
traveling in airplane food and airport food and whatever else. Save yourself up for the good stuff.
So then when some families be like, well, we cooked and stuff like that, that's like, yeah, we're still stopping. So he might bring stuff, but like it's gotten to a point nobody cooks because my dad's like, I'm stopping. I'm not doing that.
That's actually a nice thing that if depending on who's going to meet you at the airport, that just extends the welcome. And I know that's a big thing whenever we'll go to see my wife's family. We haven't seen them in so long. That's they're going to welcome you in their home, and they're going to, as most cultures are, come to my home. I'm going to feed you. But this is a nice thing that you're still getting that um, culinary tradition of eating stuff. And there's something about eating a meal with other people
Right.
or providing a meal for somebody.
Right.
There's, and it's no wonder that it's part of so many cultures. But then you get to extend that on that welcome trip home of let's stop here and we'll have something good. And then you get the added benefit of just eating awesome food too.
Yes. Very true.
Do you have anything else you want to add before the travel tip, or do you have any recommendations for a place in Ponce or along the way? She's thinking hard.
I'm thinking because I wouldn't even know how to give people directions on how to get it because it sits on the country. So I'm not even gonna even try. But my
Sounds
travel
like a
tip is
Pittsburgher
just
trying to give directions.
try, yeah, just try authentic food.
Find a place that looks good, or even whenever you are at your hotel, talk to the people at the front desk.
Absolutely.
Okay, where do you recommend? And that's also another thing of bringing in, and well, it brings in their opinion, shows that you are respecting the opinion of the local. Two, local people love to brag about their towns. So they're going to say, here's my best thing. They want to put the best foot forward of here's what you definitely want to do. And
Right.
it also shows that, I'm not coming to this place just to do my thing. I'm coming to this place to do your thing. I want to experience your lives. I want to experience your culture. I want to learn about your place, where you are living. And that just, again, brings out that local pride even more.
Absolutely. And it's much appreciated.
And now with your directions there, it sounds like a Pittsburgher that often uh, they'll say, okay, now you're going out of the corner where like the McDonald's used to be, or like where the gas station used to be. It's like, well, I'm not from it. That doesn't help me.
Right.
For your
And
local, you're like,
being,
oh yeah, I remember where that used to be, but
it's been probably maybe about 4 years. I want to say it's 4 or 5 years since I've been to Puerto Rico, and I came in actually on a cruise to San Juan. So to actual Ponce has been even longer. So I don't even want to recommend because I don't even know the place is still there. So it's been a minute since I've been to Ponce. Um, but it's definitely something that hopefully in the next year or two we'll get back.
And again, find a place and try it.
Yes.
Get out of your comfort zone. Be adventurous. So, do you have an official travel tip now?
Eat. That's my travel trip. You go all the way to Puerto Rico, immerse yourself in the culture and eat and drink.
And if you're not going to immerse yourself in the culture and travel someplace, then you might as well just stay home.
Yeah, what are you doing?
Perfect. For mine, and I mentioned this before too, that even though both Spanish and English are official languages of Puerto Rico, strongly suggest learning at least a little bit of Spanish before you visit. Not simple phrases of good morning, please, thank you, things along those lines. But making that effort to know the local language can go a long way. That again, it's that taking that step of I'm coming to your culture and want to experience your culture. Here's my, little graciousness to at least say something that is in your language that, I'm trying a bit.
Coming with
Have,
respect.
yeah, having the, even if you pronounce it badly, the, it's, I'm trying type thing. And having a translation app on your phone can also help. As I mentioned before, depending on where you go or who you talk to, you might come across people who speak limited English. So being prepared can help. I mean, usually there's enough that they'll be able to get by and you can figure out what you need. But being able to, even if you can't pronounce it, I've done this before in Indonesia. I've written something down and translated and just held it up and showed it to them. Here's what I want to say.
Right.
Yeah, now you type in there. Sorry, I'm not. I'm learning and hold it up. I took Spanish in high school, but that was the last millennium. So, we focus on essential things back then too. When we were in high school, like the one of the first things we learned as high school kids in Spanish was dos cervezas por favor.
Hey,
So
and you got it, huh?
that's why we had like some German exchange students in high school too. And of course, the first things that they said that they learned in English and the first thing they taught some of us in German were the swear words too. So,
Of course.
learn the necessities. So, even with that, I still remember how to say a few things, and just from words that even sound similar, or things that are in popular culture, words that are kind of used that are translated, or the common Spanish things that are said in English, that I can get the idea of what a Spanish sign would say. Where the entrance is, where the exit is. Even just here, that there's a lot of like the caution wet floor signs are going to be both English and Spanish. And so just
Hmm.
seeing that, it's like, oh, I just thought that was it. Pasado is danger or caution
Yeah,
or
when
the
you
wet.
see it
Say it
on
again.
the what sign? I'm sorry.
Like on a wet floor sign,
Oh,
like in a grocery store or something. That what is it?
sometimes some sign might say peligro, which might be danger. Um, the other ones, caución, you might see
Mm-hmm.
that. So, but like you said, a lot of the Spanish, a lot of the signs are both in English and Spanish like that.
Yeah, so you don't really have to worry about it too much.
Right.
And plus, all my times going to Walt Disney World and riding the monorail, I can tell you about caution, the doors are about to close. So I think we can all say that. And although the one thing, even though like my just like Indonesian with my Spanish is the same, is my ears are a bit slower with verbal translations, but my eyes can take the time to read. So, I can see Indonesian better than I can hear it, or I can read it better than I can hear it.
That's neat.
So yeah, because people talking. My wife is a slow talker in Indonesian, even from what her Indonesian friends have said. And then I've heard some of them talking. It's going a mile a minute. It's like I cut two words in that whole paragraph that you just said.
Right. Right. I gotcha.
So, but now, how can people get a hold of you?
I am on Facebook. It's Dreams by Design Travel with Annell, or you can email me, Annell, Annell, at dreamsbydesigntravel.com. I'm on social media, TikTok as Pixie Latte, Pixiellatte, and on Instagram under the same name.
For the podcast, we're on Facebook and X. We're at Where Yinz Goin. Yinz, Yinz, Goin, Goin with the apostrophe. And I'll have that information in the episode description. So you can just copy and paste and uh, find Annell. And she puts out some awesome videos and other social media content. So I strongly advise that you follow her just because she's amazing.
Oh, thank you, Matt.
Thank you very much, Nell, for taking this trip to your uh, where you were born and grew up in Puerto Rico.
Oh,
And
thank you.
it was a gorgeous island, wonderful people there. I cannot sing the praises of Puerto Rico enough that I want to go back and explore more of the island.
Right. Yes,
So,
it's beautiful island.
all right, thank you again. Now, we're gonna have Annell back for something else in the future too. So you haven't heard the last of her.
Thanks for having me, Matt. It's always fun.
Please like, follow, subscribe, leave a review, tell a friend if you like what you heard, let other people know so they can enjoy it too. You know, share the things you like, make other people happy. So please join us next time. We're Nat Nat. We'll see you later.